Hi, welcome back to Unique Minds of the Okanagan. I'm Rob O'Day and we're on location in Penticton with Delayne Corbett, an extremely talented sculptor, carver, man of all trades. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to hear your story. So let's hop right in. Where are you from? How did you get into carving, sculpting, and being an artist?
I was born in Nelson, but my parents are from Edmonton, Alberta, and pretty much where I started carving in Calgary. Basically, when I was 19 years old, I just picked up a hammer and chisel, made an incense holder, and a friend liked it, and so I made another one, and then the lady I was dating at the time, she said, "Oh, you like this carving so much, why don't you try soapstone?" As luck would have it, just a couple blocks away was a small lapidary shop, and they had little stone blocks and chisels and files and a little instruction booklet, and so I bought one and just started whittling away. I just kept on doing it. I just enjoyed it so much, making little pendants and candle holders and such like that, and I just fell in love with it and didn't stop and said yes to pretty much every opportunity that came my way.
Sculpting and like the lapidaries, they don't have a lot of those anymore. They have small sections of them that you can go. There's one in Kelowna, and I think there's one here, I believe. I find that that's cool that that's how you were introduced. You started carving and then you just kind of went to...
Started going big.
Yeah.
the small stuff, it was small and detailed, but I wanted to do larger and larger things. And so I stepped away from lapidary and just started basic sculpture. Basically consumed me.
What was it that really made you gravitate towards sculpting, carving, what I like to call the subtractive artwork, where you're taking things away and you have to have a whole different mentality to step into that?
I would say I trained myself to do it as I went. It was years and years of practice. I wouldn't say I had a general knack of it or I didn't know, but I just enjoyed working with my hands. And that's the main thing, is I just enjoyed doing things, making things and being creative. I loved it so much that stone was an ideal medium for that.
Stone is, I find it entertaining that you went to stone. I was a carpenter and woodworking, and it's definitely fun. And you have to have a skill set, but when you start stepping into stone is where I always got intimidated, because it's just another level of, if you make a mistake,
yep,
you're making a mistake kind of a thing. As we're painting, it's like you can cover over it. Like,
the lesson I learned is that there are no mistakes. There's happy accidents, right? Yes, you make a mistake, but then you have to adapt, right? And so yes, I made the mistake, so I have to shrink the head. If I have to shrink the head, I have to shrink the whole body. So yes, you can make mistakes, but then you can always fix your mistakes just by slightly adjusting. And also with mistakes, some people don't even notice them, right? Adapting to the medium is a big lesson that I learned, because every medium is different. When I was about 30, that's when I started carving ice and snow. I joined the Alberta Sculptors Association and took some workshops with them and learned how to use a chainsaw on ice and working with snow, which was plentiful there, right? And so it's almost a free medium, and you just got to put in the muscle, put in the legwork to get it up into a form. Those different types of mediums, you learn different physics, and you also learn to adapt to what kind of unique characteristics that each medium has.
Do you find it an easy transition going from wood to stone to sand and like snow? Or is there different techniques that do transcend over, but you have to be more delicate in specific ones? Obviously with snow and sand, it's a lot softer than stone and wood, but I feel like that would be almost more hard, like more difficult to do sand and stone than a solid thing, because it crumbles.
Well, stone also does crumble too if you hit it the wrong way. In fact, it is strong, but it's also very brittle. So if you just tap it the right way, you can crack your whole piece. Where sand or snow, the odds of you smashing the whole piece are limited unless you undermine the whole thing. With ice and snow, they're both additive and subtractive. Or you have a block of ice, you can cut pieces off and then refuse them together. Same thing with snow, you can cut blocks off and then you can stack them. Both of those medium have elastic strength, so you can do long overhangs without the risk of falling down. You can do that with stone as well too, but you can't do that in sand. The physics aren't there. It's got compaction strength, but it doesn't have elastic strength. With wood, you can pretty much do anything with it, right? You can add additive, subtractive. Stone is mostly subtractive. You can do some additive. You can laminate pieces. You can also pour epoxy into them, like brickwork, like stonework.
Yeah.
You can also assemble as well too.
You do competitions globally, not just locally, but like you've gone like you were telling me before we started on cameras, like Denmark and Finland, and like, how has that experience been to be able to travel the world doing an art form that you love?
That was a dream come true. It's a joy of sculpting, creating art, meeting people, traveling, seeing new things. All of that was the perfect job. It really is. It opened my eyes to so many different arts and art forms and people, and allowed me to learn and grow.
I can't even imagine. Like, like for me as being a musician, I try to relate it to like going on tour to Europe and being able to hit the stage and just like look out at the crowd. But it's not the same because it is a competition, but it's a whole competition of people who are like-minded and want to do the same thing and will help each other. So it's you're going to like more of a convention than a competition. Yeah. And I think that's the fact that you were even saying that Europe is extremely open to art and art forms like that. Yeah. It'd be really cool to see things like that here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have 2 huge beaches, and I know we have sandcastle competitions, but to see them on the scale that, like, some of the things that are built there are just mind-blowing.
So that is definitely on my agenda. One of the things I really wanted to do when I moved here was to get a professional quality sand sculpting event happening here. So where we can bring in sculptors from not just in BC, but from around the world. As I proved by these sand sculptures here, that the sand here is good, but it's not beach sand. So we basically have to truck it in from the sand pits over on the west bench there. They've got great sand there. I've looked at it already. And so it's a matter of finding a place and getting the sponsorship to help bring artists and get all the materials and supplies ready.
BC government helps a lot with the arts community, and I'm curious if there's a type of grant for coordination of that, so where you can cover the costs and they can do it because it's going to bring in tourism. It's those kind of things that like I love. That's why I like sitting down with like-minded people, because for you to be like, I want to put this on in the Okanagan, there's not a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people who have ideas but not willing to like make it happen. And that's where I think it's difficult, especially like as artists, to get our art out there. And having a medium that one melts and one that's out of sand, it's probably not the easiest to get your art out there. I can imagine that that's been probably a huge struggle point, is how to get your actual artwork out there besides photos. Because you can't sell sand sculptures, right? Or can you?
The way to do that is you can use it as a sandvertisement. Getting businesses to sponsor their logo on a sand sculpture. That's one way to do it, and that's basically the one that most of these sand artists do. Or you can also sand busk. Basically, there is a spot on Okanagan Beach that has actual good sand that I've sourced out. It's kind of by the marina there, so that's the best sand on the beach.
I'll be honest, that's not something I would have ever thought about talking to you before. The type of sand.
Oh, it's huge, and that's how come you're not seeing sand sculptures like this on Skaha Lake, because this sand here, there's no fine silts in it, there's no clay in it, and it's all very large round grains. So have you ever tried stacking marbles? You can maybe make a pyramid if you got a
good
support.
Base.
Exactly.
And
so that's basically what you can do with the sand. You can go a little steeper if you got lots of water, but that's pretty much it. Your particles are round, and there's lots of air spaces in between. So if you crush those up, get them nice and small, or sift it, you can get a finer quality or finer grained, like silt sand. And so that means that there's less air in there, and then when you add the water, there's liquid elastic tension. You put 2 wet plate pieces of glass together, and they stick.
A suction,
right? And that's basically what happens with your sand. So you got that action happening. If you get clay in there as well too, like 2 or 3% clay, when that sand does start to dry out, instead of crumbling, it actually hardens. And so that's basically the clay cliffs. There's a lot of sand in there, but you can see it hardens. So that's an extreme example of it. That's mostly clay.
Is that why the competitions on Skaha, like the sandcastle competitions on Skaha, they have to keep them to such a, I don't want to say like a smaller scale, but they do?
There's 2 reasons for that. One, yes, because I've even tried it over here. I brought my big forms and filled them with sand, compacted them, lots of water. Basically, as you're pouring water into it, you want to stir it up and create a pool effect, so the sand kind of self-settles. And then when that water drains, most of the water drains out, you can take your forms off. But what happens is the sides fall off, and you're left with a pyramid, basically. And so,
that's like the aspects you wouldn't think about that are very key for that's just sand.
Yeah.
That's not even the other forms, right?
So there's good sand and bad sand.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think about that just being a person looking at the art itself or sandcastles or sand sculptures. And I think that's where it's nice to like sit and pick somebody's brain who's a master of it, right? Because I mean, you've been doing it for
sand sculpting for 20 years.
Yeah, so you've put in your 10,000 hours, you know what I mean? And there's so many lessons that you've learned, and like little things like that, like, oh, maybe there's not enough silica in the sand, and that's why it's not sticking. Like things like that common people wouldn't think about, right? We're just like, why doesn't the sand work? Snow, we all know what we can do with snow, but when you're taking away with ice, I feel like that's nerve-wracking because it's almost like glass. Like if you make one wrong move, that whole block is gone.
With ice, you're not smashing it with a hammer and chisel. You know, you're not beating the heck out of it. So you're using very precise tools. So your chainsaws, you can create very sharp and easy cuts. You can get angle grinders to plane, and die grinders to create deep channels as well too. And so all of those, you know, you're slowly taking away. You're not attacking it. So odds of the mistake are limited. You are, of course, susceptible to heat. So ideally you have to be below zero to carve, right? So I could make an ice sculpture out here right now today in an hour, and then in 3 hours it'll be gone. Yeah, it still can be done. Just got to keep it out of the sun. The sun kills ice.
And with stone, do you strictly work with one specific type of stone, or do you enjoy working with multiple types?
I started with softer stone, so soapstone, alabasters, and then just learned to get harder and harder as we went. So your granites and basalts. I'm really enjoying marble. Right now, it's just really easy to carve just with a hammer and chisel, so I don't need my crazy angle grinders. There's also a diamond chainsaw now, which is, it's a little out of my budget right now, but it's still on my wish list. Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's a dangerous weapon.
I know. And
that's cool,
so it's basically turning stone into ice. And it's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And so I just love the stone. It's most like I'll find a rock, it's already got a shape. I can either just start carving and see what happens. I can see something there, like that's already a giraffe, right? And I turn that giraffe and I make it an elephant. It doesn't want to be an elephant. It wants to be a giraffe, so it's not going to work. Or conversely, I come up with an idea and then find that stone that matches that in dimensions, right? And then just carve everything away. The three main modes of sculpture right there, that's kind of what I work with. I really just enjoy, mostly, is just playing with the stone, grinding it down, peeling off the layers to see the body of it, just the volume of it, and also the coloration, because every stone is unique in its grains. Once you get to see it, you can start playing with it and bringing things out.
Can you carve with any type of stone?
Technically, yes, not diamonds, but yeah, you can carve with any type of stone. It's true.
Because I do rock hunting. Like I go rock hunting for fun, just throughout the Okanagan, and I found some really cool pieces of just a piece of an agate, and it's just like this lime green giant piece of agate that I got from Mount Ida in Salmon Arm. And there was just a giant landslide, and we happened to come down 2 days after it, and it was just sitting there, and it's like beautiful stones that we have in just the Okanagan alone that you can go and rock hunt. I'm just like curious about, like, when you're sourcing stuff, can you just go out into nature and grab it?
Yes. In fact, the stone I'll be working on here is, I was just on Vancouver Island for the Parksville sand sculpting competition there, and then I took a couple extra days and drove around to the marble deposits that I know and found a couple pieces there. Then I also went to Quadra Island and found some marble there as well too. I'll be working on one of those that I dragged home.
That's awesome. The island has really a total different rock collection, and it's mind-blowing because it's part of Alaska, I believe, is where it came from. So, like, you see a lot of painted stones out there. I like calling them painted, but they're like conglomerates of different types. But it's just it's mind-blowing what stones are out there. And there's one deposit of a type of stone out there that you can only find out there, and I can't remember what it is at the moment. But always wanted to go and get a piece of it because I have a huge rock collection. A geek for stone.
So I've been making one of the things I'm doing is making bird bats and bowls. So I've been finding local stones. The Okanagan is unique geologically. Lots of volcanic activity here. There is some sedimentary deposits, but not much. So there's not much limestone, not much marble, but a lot of very intricate and interesting granite around. And so I've got some pieces, this one here, the bird bath there, that's found in Okanagan Falls, and I got a couple more over there from Naramata. Just some beautiful eyeballs and conglomerations in there that really make for a wonderful sculpture.
Have you ever gone looking up Boucherie?
Nope.
So Mount Boucherie is, I want to say, dormant.
Yeah, I haven't been up there yet.
They've got some really wicked silica.
Okay.
So there's what looks like selenite, but it's the opposite shine. I can't remember which stone it is, but the selenite, it shines up and down when you look at it, and this shines side to side.
Okay.
And there's huge veins of it, and then there's amethyst and citrine up there, and so many cool things up there that I'm like, we'd love to get you up to the area, because what they're doing is they're building a development up there, so they're just tearing up the whole land.
Okay, yeah.
So like I might give, after we're done this, and give you a little map where it is, because it's mind-blowing what you can just walk on the side of the road. Just chunks of quartz that are like this, and like people don't see it. That's rocks on the road. I'm like, that's treasure. Like that is quite physically treasure. Like amethyst and citrine, like that's magic to me. So to think that you work with that as job, like you get to build these things out of what you find and make magic out of your mind by just slowly carving and taking away and creating these masterpieces.
Some stones are harder than others, and so diamonds are a sculptor's best friend. With diamond tools, you can pretty much carve anything but diamonds. Like, for example, jade is very hard. There's jade carvers. You can do it. It takes a lot of time and effort.
Like, what's mind-blowing is how Aboriginal and Indigenous people carved jade before we even realized that you need to use specific tools. They're just putting it out there and doing it. And that's kind of where, like you were mentioning, a jade artist in Vernon, and it's kind of like it's mind-blowing for me, because it is I don't want to say a dying art form, because there are tons of people out there who do it, but like some of the sculptures that you make are not just like elegant pieces you would put on a side table, you know what I mean, but like you see them and you're like, how did you do that? Like you can read a stone almost better because you've spent so much time with it. Kind of like I can hear a melody and pick out which rhythms and syncopicities will go with it, but it's to like relate to another artist in a different medium is mind-blowing for me, especially when it's one that I absolutely love, because I love stone. So it's, for me, it's like it's a giddy. I get to watch stone get worked with today, so I'm super excited. But to like put yourself in the perspective that you have to go out and like find these locations where certain outcroppings are, and like you're like, oh, I have my areas on the island that I go to for my marble. I'm like, how do you find that? Like, do you take geological maps and like do studies to figure out where specific stone is, or do you go out and just
there are MinFile maps. It's a governmental agency that has a bunch of files on different mineral deposits. There is a specific one for marble, for soapstone, pyrophyllite, some of the real softer stones, and so they'll show you all the mines. It doesn't necessarily show you the outcroppings, but it shows you where the former mines were.
Oh, okay, so you still got to do some research.
Yeah, exactly. Also word of mouth, joining local rock hounding groups as well too. That's a great way to learn. When I was in Vancouver Island, I ran into a rock hounder in this random pit in the middle of nowhere. They pointed me to a spot where there's some limestone that I could find that I had never found before. So it's a matter of just going out there and finding like-minded people.
Have you worked with opal before?
I have a small piece of opal.
Isn't it soft?
Yes, I've never found it, and I've never bought it.
We have some in Vernon.
Okay.
There's a former mine. I don't know if it's still open, but you could pay like $40 and go in and get tons of it. I can't remember if it's still open, but I have a buddy who also does a gold panning, and he finds it too. But he blows glass with the gold that he finds.
Okay.
So he does some really cool things. And there's there's a lot of people here who know where they are, but they tend to keep it a secret.
Well,
right? And that's where I'm like, oh, that's part of being the rock hunter. It's nice to hear that people are like, yeah, I'll give you my secret, because I'm like, what do you mean?
Also having friends as geologists as friends
helps a lot. Like, because it is a form where it's like, if you want a specific stone, you're gonna have to either order it in, which is gonna cost you money, or do you travel a lot just to find specific stones?
I don't go out of my way to travel. For the most part, like for all the alabaster that I work with, some I found, some have been given to me, and some I bought. And so there's local stone suppliers. You know, you can get raw rocks that you have to pay per pound.
Yeah.
But if you put in the time and effort to work with that gets paid back when you sell it, basically. I'm looking for this alabaster, this peach alabaster that my local supplier got from China, but they don't have it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but every piece that I've ever made out of this is sold before I even finish it, technically, right? And so I really want to find it again. And so I have to go to, the only other closest place would be Utah that would be able to, similar stone, not quite the same, but at least it's in the same color palette. I just contacted a quarry there, and either going down, picking it up, or having it shipped over.
Is there big tariffs and stuff on that for stone?
So I don't really know about tariffs quite yet, because I haven't bought stone in
over the border yet.
Over the border, yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening, and that's more of a tariff. It would be on the charges if I leave.
Has there ever been a type that you're like, I want to work with that?
Oh yes.
But you can't get?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, you can get it. You can just get it shipped in, but it costs significantly, especially if you're getting a 100-pound boulder. Just the boulder itself, it's usually $2 a pound, so there's $200 or $300. But shipping is usually double or triple that. For example, I sent 2 stone bowls to the Cayman Islands. The bowls were about $2,000 and shipping was $4,000. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Like, as an artist who lives off of selling art, right?
Yes, more or less. I bought this house recently with my new wife, and that was only because I got a job. I have been carving stone my whole life, but I've been pretty much single and be able to, just have to take care of myself. So I did start sculpting in the film industry, and so in Vancouver, and so I build giant sets there, which gives me the luxury of being able to carve and do my own thing. So I don't have to, it's not quite work yet, well, not now, so I'm able to play with it instead of it's not a job for me. Yeah. But unless I get commissions and such like that.
And still to be working in the film industry. Yeah. How does that go? What are they making you build out of? Styrofoam and wood and...
So predominantly it's styrofoam.
Okay.
The last project I made was this giant twisted tree.
Cool.
And it was mostly all styrofoam. And then they'll hard coat it and paint it. Setdex comes in and dresses it. And then also did a nice big old log for an independent feature. It was absolutely beautiful. And you couldn't tell that it wasn't a log.
That to me is mind-blowing that I'm 19 and I'm going to start carving an incense holder. Years down the road and I'm building sets.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right? So those kind of stories are why I love doing this show, because there's a huge generational gap going on right now with people wanting instant gratification and not understanding that it takes so much hard work to be able to make your dreams a reality.
Yeah.
Whether you want to just do it as a hobby or I want to do this full time. It's my life. And the one thing that they never realize is sacrifice. How much is sacrifice actually comes in, what you've got to give up to be able to chase your dream.
Yeah.
Like you said, you were single for taking care of yourself, so you could do that. Yeah. Your mentality's changed because you have a partner, and it's as we grow, we start to see what really matters, and then if it really truly is what you want to do, you make it your life. And I think that the younger generation really needs to capture that essence of that hardworking old school mentality that we were all raised with, because it's not there anymore. We're living in the perfect time to be able to make a job out of anything and live off of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to go for it. So it's inspiring to see that you went from you're still progressing. You're never going to be satisfied. And I think that's just the artist in you, and the fact that you have to work with your hands. Film sets is there's no end in sight for that, because you can just ride that wave if you wanted to forever.
Yes and no. It's having its ups and downs now. So that's one thing that the tariffs are affecting. Yeah, there's AI has a big influence in that as well too. They can, green screen a set now instead of carving a giant set, and they just put up a screen and AI does the rest.
Just has 3D printing taken
that
absolutely.
over at all? Yes, that's a big thing in our film industry right now, and our sculptors are trying to stand up to it. They are shipping the projects away from the sculptors and sending them to the CNC shops. And so when they come back, they hire us to put them together and shape them, right? The costs are the same, technically. There's not a lot of places you can make a giant set out of styrofoam, do you know what I mean? There's lots of ins and outs, and so CNC and 3D printing is affecting a little bit, but not much, because we still got to program it, and then it's got to be touched up regardless afterwards.
Over your career, what's been the most challenging obstacle for you to overcome?
My own self-doubt, for one. Coming up with ideas, that's another one as well too. There's billions of ideas that you can make, and sometimes it's already been done. And so how do I make a mark? I've had to fight that a lot. Now I just love to do it, and it doesn't matter what I make. Yes, I know somebody's may have already made something 10 times as beautiful, but I didn't make it. Two, trying to get my sculptures out into the market as well too. Sculpture is different than paintings, and not a lot of places have floor space for pedestals or for sculptures. So just even finding a place to display some of my work has always been a challenge as well too.
Getting it out there. So I asked that question because I have friends that I've also interviewed over this year who do metal, and it's too heavy to ship.
Yes.
So it's too heavy for him to bring to places. And then my other friend who does stained glass, it's too fragile to bring out. So it is how do you get out without just having like art walks or things like and especially when
art walks are great, and that's how I really started. I used to do this White Avenue art walk in Edmonton. Just set up a little stand, had all my sculptures out there. Yes, they were fairly fragile, but I got bigger pieces, smaller pieces, and stuck everything down so it didn't blow over and knock over. That was the best way, word of mouth, trying to display it out in public wherever you can.
A medium is like yours. When you're doing stone carving, there's almost more hours put into that than there is in a lot of the other forms. Like painting can take a lot of time if you're doing it, but it could also go really quickly. And when you're carving stone, you have to be in that moment, and you can't be, your brain has to be there because you're physically taking things out. And that's where I enjoy the sculpting and carving art styles, because it is, with painting and music, you're adding to it, and you can add too much and you don't know when to stop. But how do you make that decision with stone?
You can see how fragile you're getting, and you know if you push it any further, it's just going to break. And so that's definitely a stop. I can't do anything else to this. What's nice about stone is if you get stuck, you can just put it aside, come back to it 3 years later. I've got a plethora of examples out here where I've started a project and then it's just like my mind's not there, I'm going to start something else. Once that happens, your brain is fresh and you can push it to wherever you need to.
There's one photo on your Facebook that really captivated me, and it's like this, it's almost see-through, and it looks like a female standing, and you can see the light glowing through it, and it's just like, how? Like, that's how I look at that and I go, how did he do that? To look at a stone and then see that visually and then create it. Some of my favorite forms of art are totem poles. That's subtractive of just like working with whatever you have. You got to be forgiving to yourself and accept that like there's no ego when it comes to creating. You may have a vision for what you want that stone to be, but that stone's not going to let you have that. The stone's going to be what the stone is.
Exactly, yeah.
Have there been ever points where you've wanted to create a specific thing and it just like you're pulling your hair out because you can't figure it out?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. The stone, they're irregular shapes. If the stone wants to be an elephant, you can't make it into a giraffe. You can't. And so if you start trying to turn it into a giraffe, it's going to say no. And what I mean by that, it's got a certain mass. You can't add on. You have to be very specific in your design of your piece to know where your maximum is and to not push that in as you're carving, to just know where your limit is. We're having a conversation, you're slowly pushing in. You're not attacking it, you're not doing broad strokes. And if you go too much, then you have to adapt and change.
Have you ever done pieces that are like a single stone that have fused together, so like by rings? So like if you were to have one stone and carve that out so that it's one stone but it's still linked.
Normally it's a really thin drill, like a Dremel with a dentist tool, and so you're just slowly digging away all the excess.
It seems so much more complicated. Like to take a rock that you see on the side of the road and to think that that's what it's going to be and doing it, it's magic. So like I always talk about it on the show, there's like the three people. There's the go-getters, there's the doers, they'll be told what to do, and then there's us, the creatives, who are like, you can't tell us what to do, but we're going to push every barrier there is possible to prove that you can do it. I think that's what makes art so intricate and like elegant over the years, especially if you look at like old school sculptures. Like you look at the Da Vinci-esque time sculptures and thinking like there's one specifically where it's a female and she's wearing a piece of clothing and you can see the ripples in it, and it's like,
and the body at the same time.
Like how does one even go about doing that?
Having a model really helps. So you do your drawings, have a model there. But what's been taught to me is painting helps your sculpture, which helps your drawing, which helps your painting. So it's kind of like this circle. Doing all three helps all three. My drawing helps my sculpture. Painting, you have to work with lights and shadows, and so that helps your brain process the three-dimensionality of stone as well too. I recommend working with all three in order to help improve all three. Have a model, do your sketches and drawings, and do a model, so you're doing a scale size, and that'll help. And then you also have to study anatomy. Or conversely, you can measure your model. You can also create a small model, scale it up using a scaler or a pointing machine.
Stepping into other mediums and understanding their perspective is a really cool thing for me, because stone is one that is very captivating, because I love the old sculptures that are still there to this day, and that skill set's like it's dying. It's like if you were to take a full body statue and go about it, what would your process be?
First, coming up with the idea, exactly what you're doing. The hardest part is going to be finding your stone, sourcing your stone out, and that's going to be your largest expense as well too. You'll want to go to where the stone is instead of shipping it. That's why they all go to Italy. That's where the marble is. They've got all the equipment to move it and ship it. Quite a few of my colleagues, they're there now making their sculptures because it's way too expensive to ship a block here. How I started working with the harder stones is I joined a carving symposium.
Okay.
And so that's basically sculptors get together and they make dust, and they put on workshops. And they teach each other and help each other. There's a big one just finished. It's put on by the Pacific Northwest Stone Sculptors Association.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so I'd highly recommend anybody interested in carving stone to check that out. The local Vancouver Island Sculpting Association is putting on one in Cowichan Lake, and theirs is in September. And that was actually one of my first adventures into carving with a group of people and learning there, was going to the Vancouver Island Stone Carving Symposium when it was on Thetis. And that was mind-blowing, being open to all the different tools, all the different styles, all the different talent, and all the different stones. They suppliers bring stones in, and kid in a candy store.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you see are there a lot of younger people picking it up, or do you see that?
Yeah, yes and no. I haven't been to a symposium in a while, but I do see on my algorithm shows me all the stone carvers and the sand carvers and such like that. So there is, they're out there. When I started, I felt I was young. The old timers were just, it's great to have you. I'm in a space now where I'm definitely more than willing to share my knowledge and help any young ones. People haven't really been saying, hey, I want to learn that. How
do we expose a younger generation to see it and be like, wow, I'd love to do that? And it's like, well, all you got to do is come hang out.
Stuff like this helps, putting it out there into the sphere. Like, there is such a thing as stone carving, and it's not as hard as you think. And that's one of the problems that most artists have. They have a set idea of what they want to make. They get the tools, get the materials, they start carving. First thing they do is fuck up. And then they say, no, I can't do it. I tried, can't do it. I am a firm believer that you have to put in your 10,000 hours. Don't base everything on your first try. You know nothing about it, and you're not perfect, and this isn't perfect, and you learn by making errors, and that's the best teachers. You make your errors, try again. Instead of just putting it down, saying, no, I can't do it. And so, I can show you how to make really interesting sandcastles very quickly. It's going to take me a while to teach you how to do a 7-foot tall pound up. And do a nice detailed sculpture. That's not gonna be simple. It's not gonna be just like that.
I think what is intimidating is because it seems like a lot. It's just getting that foot in the door, which is why I love the show, because that's the whole point, is to like how do we take these people who are masters of their art and have them be like, this is the step in the door. Like, this is how you pick up a stone and go and do it. Because my biggest fear in life right now, having 2 young kids, they're not going to grow up to pick up an art. We have to inspire the younger generation to pick up the art forms that have made our cultures what they are. Because if we lose our art forms, we'll never get that back. It's like language, it's like literature, if it's gone, it's gone. And if kids aren't picking up instruments or picking up paintbrushes, or you know, if they're just constantly scrolling, it's like, what are they going to create? For me, I'm like a huge advocate on how do we get the younger generation interested in being artists, so that they, when they turn 19, they pick up a chisel. We did a interview in our last season. She makes jewelry, and she cuts stones and stuff, and it was cool to see a younger female who had joined the lapidary team and is now creating jewelry out of her artwork. And I was just like, that's what we need, more of that. So I'm excited to sit down and watch you get to work, because I think when people get to physically see what goes on, it's more interesting than just seeing the final product, because that's what most people see. It's like the final product. You never see the behind the scenes and the struggles, and super inspiring, because most people like would have taken the career and like the education and been like, oh, we got to do the 9 to 5, and it's like, we don't need to, especially nowadays. That's why it's like, this show is the perfect opportunity to expose arts culture to kids, because it is like, we have professional gamers, people who play video games for profession. Could you imagine 10 years ago if you would have somebody said that to you, you probably would have laughed at them, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a crazy world, and it's like, art itself is always evolving, and new art forms too. So I'm curious to see if we can inspire a younger generation to do it, what are they going to end up taking it and running with it, just like you took and run with it, right? So, so what we'll do is I'll end the stream, and we can adjust to the workspace, and then we'll reset the stream and get going again.
Yeah, sounds great.